Behind the television smile and easy banter of Mike Wolfe, the beloved host of American Pickers, lay a story so twisted that it would eventually grip the nation. On the morning of March 12, 2025, major news outlets across the United States simultaneously reported that Mike Wolfe, the prominent face of the popular History Channel series, had been sentenced to life imprisonment on charges that seemed torn from the pages of a high-stakes thriller: transnational artifact smuggling, concealing evidence in the suspicious death of a respected historian, and manipulating the antique auction market to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. For millions of viewers, Mike Wolfe had long embodied the ideal of the heritage enthusiast. Someone who roamed America in search of forgotten treasures, determined to preserve the past one barn, attic, and junkyard at a time. But the trial's revelations over 46 harrowing days revealed another side: a cold, calculating man with covert ties to clandestine antiquities trafficking rings spanning the Middle East and Europe, who used his fame to launder illicit deals beneath the glow of network spotlights. The first domino fell on June 17, 2023, in Bloomington, Indiana, when police received a neighbor's call about a strange odor emanating from the basement of Professor Harold Clemens's house. Clemens, a retired University of Chicago historian who specialized in Civil War-era artifacts, was found deceased, lying on his back with one hand clutching a silver pocket watch engraved with the words RK-187, for honor, not glory. At first, it seemed a natural death for an elderly man living alone. But the watch itself was a mystery. Within a week, a leaked internal memo from the Savannah National Museum revealed that the watch had once belonged to its Battlefield Heritage Collection, which had gone missing in 2019 during an unreported, unexplained storage transfer. The museum had quietly buried the loss to avoid scandal, never imagining it would resurface in the hands of a corpse. As social media caught wind of the memo, an anonymous Reddit post on the antique hoarding subreddit sent the story viral. The user, GearGhost82, insisted they remembered seeing that exact watch in an unaired American Pickers episode where Mike visited a Kentucky farm and even said, "This watch tells stories." Within days, dozens of other users chimed in, claiming they had seen the same or similar clips on YouTube before they mysteriously disappeared in 2021. Others swore they saw the watch on display at Antique Archaeology in Nashville the previous year. By July 2023, the FBI had quietly opened an investigation with the International Antiquities Trafficking Task Force, dubbing it Operation Rust Rail. Their goal was to determine if Mike Wolfe was the center of an illegal, possibly international artifact smuggling operation. A key early lead emerged from leaked, unreleased History Channel footage shared by a disgruntled former employee. A 14-minute clip showed Mike haggling over a box of military pocket watches with an unidentified man in a Kentucky warehouse. He is heard saying, "I know this piece went through the hands of an officer. It definitely has historical value. I won't ask where you got it." What deepened suspicions further was the discovery that Wolfe and Clemens had crossed paths before. In 2017, Clemens made a cameo at a televised symposium on artifact history, where he delivered a cryptic warning that some artifacts should never be for sale. They carry pain no amount of money can buy. After Clemens's death, an email recovered from his computer revealed even deeper concern. In it, he wrote to a friend, "I believe I've uncovered a chain of illicit transactions originating from a well-known television figure. I'm debating whether to alert the federal authorities." The email was sent just 3 days before his death. Though police found no signs of overt violence, the forensic report mentioned a small contusion on the back of Clemens's head, possibly from a fall or a blow before he lost consciousness. No homicide charges were filed, but that was enough for the FBI to intensify its investigation, placing Mike Wolfe under discreet but constant surveillance. The watch, once an innocuous detail, became the keystone in building a case against him. The federal team began reviewing every episode of American Pickers, demanding raw production logs and footage from the History Channel, and subpoenaing Antique Archaeology's internal records. They discovered that between 2020 and 2023, over 40 items acquired by Wolfe and his crew on camera mysteriously vanished from production records. Many were purchased with receipts, filmed for TV, then simply disappeared, never aired, never inventoried, never sold through their shops. Among them was the silver pocket watch found with Clemens. Investigators mapped these transactions with meticulous detail, tracing items buried in obscure warehouses, basements, or perhaps funneled through the murky layers of the antique underworld. Early in the investigation, they avoided approaching Wolfe directly. Instead, they tailed one of his backstage assistants, Craig Salinas, who worked as the driver and transport handler for the production team. During a long surveillance session in southern Missouri, Salinas was recorded delivering crates from a van marked Antique Archaeology to an abandoned warehouse that never appeared on any filming schedule. Local police, disguised as building inspectors, later found the warehouse filled with sealed wooden crates containing 18th and 19th century antiques, including at least 3 pieces reported stolen from a Georgia museum. The operation reached a turning point when the FBI secured warrants for 2 private storage units registered under shell company Time Vault Logistics LLC, in which Wolfe held indirect shares through layers of intermediaries. In one Ohio warehouse, agents found hundreds of undocumented items, Civil War revolvers, tattered handwritten manuscripts, even a nearly meter-tall Egyptian deity statue carefully cushioned in a shockproof container. An internal memo confirmed the statue matched one stolen from the Luxor Museum in 2011. Financial investigators followed the money trail, discovering Wolfe owned 5 companies in offshore tax havens like Bismarck and the Cayman Islands. From 2016 to 2023, these entities shuffled nearly $4.7 million through antique sales, none of which passed through certified appraisers or reputable auction houses. Alarmingly, a Swiss account in Wolfe's name had received a $150,000 wire transfer from a known antiquities trafficker in Aleppo, Syria, a city infamous for looted cultural heritage traded during wartime. What shocked investigators was not only the scope of these deals, but how methodically Wolfe hid them. None of his official team members were responsible for shipping items post-filming. Instead, he used third-party couriers, signing contracts through virtual fax apps, and paying in untraceable cash or cryptocurrency. The logistics coordinator was an Eastern European man known only by the alias Memon, whose real identity remained elusive despite deep dives into encrypted communication apps. In November 2023, the FBI decided to infiltrate Wolfe's network. They targeted an antique shop in New Mexico that Wolfe had visited, using an undercover agent to stage a meeting with Wolfe himself. In a secretly recorded conversation later played at trial, Wolfe is heard defending his approach, saying, "Not every item should be on TV. Some things are meant for those who truly understand their value, not the audience." Within weeks of that sting, the FBI executed emergency searches at 3 antique archaeology-related sites, including a clandestine warehouse in North Nashville. There, agents found the List 17, a handwritten coded document cataloging items alongside cryptic symbols, black market pricing, and transaction dates. Even more damning was a personal notebook belonging to Wolfe, containing a penciled line that read, "They will never understand. This is about heritage, not money." But heritage cannot be an excuse to break the law. Faced with mountains of evidence, from smuggled antiquities and shell company bank accounts to handwritten admissions of guilt, prosecutors painted Wolfe as the mastermind behind one of the largest antiquities trafficking scandals in American history. The courtroom heard of elaborate laundering schemes, faked appraisals, intimidation of whistleblowers, and an empire built not on the preservation of heritage, but its exploitation for personal gain. What began as a charming, rustic television program promising to celebrate America's forgotten past ended in one of the most dramatic criminal cases ever to shatter the veneer of reality television, leaving viewers and historians alike to question how many other priceless artifacts may have been lost forever in the shadows of fame and greed. As the public reckoned with the shocking downfall of a once-beloved figure, the cultural world was left grappling with deeper questions. How could such an operation flourish under the guise of historical preservation for so long? How many other figures in the antique and reality TV industries might be hiding similar secrets? The trial of Mike Wolfe not only exposed a web of deceit but also revealed critical vulnerabilities in the regulation and oversight of cultural heritage objects in the United States. Calls quickly grew louder for stricter provenance laws, better international cooperation on artifact registration, and more transparent practices in both private collecting and televised antiquing. Meanwhile, several museums and collectors quietly began reviewing their own acquisitions, wary of the possibility that they too might have inadvertently participated in the illegal trade. The scandal triggered a reckoning across the heritage industry, forcing a renewed focus on ethics, legality, and accountability. For the many viewers who had once admired Wolfe's charm and knowledge, the revelations felt like betrayal. But they also served as a stark reminder that history is not a commodity, and that the story's artifacts carry are sacred. In the end, the real cost of Wolfe's actions wasn't only legal. It was cultural. In the wake of the verdict, fallout rippled across multiple industries. The History Channel quickly scrubbed all promotional materials featuring Mike Wolfe, issuing a terse statement disavowing any prior knowledge of illegal activity. "We are deeply disturbed by the revelations surrounding Mr. Wolfe," the network wrote. "We are cooperating fully with federal authorities and reviewing all past productions to ensure compliance with our internal ethics standards." Streaming platforms pulled American Pickers episodes from rotation, and antique archaeologist storefronts in LeClaire and Nashville were temporarily shuttered amid public outcry and ongoing forensic audits. Civil suits began stacking up within weeks. Families of known stolen artifacts, including descendants of private collectors and estates whose relics had vanished decades earlier, came forward demanding restitution. Several international museums also filed legal claims, citing violations of the 1970 UNESCO Convention on Cultural Property. The Luxor Museum in Egypt demanded the immediate repatriation of the recovered deity statue, while Italy's Ministry of Culture opened an independent investigation into similar transactions that may have involved Wolfe during his visits to European antique fairs. Meanwhile, the court unsealed hundreds of pages of documents detailing the extent of Wolfe's operations: shipping logs, secret contracts, encrypted emails, and financial statements from tax haven accounts. One particularly chilling exhibit included photographs from a private auction held in Bucharest, where masked bidders circled items on velvet-draped tables, among them a Confederate battle flag once thought destroyed, and an intricately carved indigenous artifact traced back to a stolen Canadian burial site. The court of public opinion remained sharply divided. While many condemned Wolfe's actions as unforgivable betrayals of trust, a small but vocal contingent of supporters insisted he was a scapegoat, an antiquities enthusiast caught in the crosshairs of overzealous law enforcement. Fringe blogs began circulating conspiracy theories, alleging that Wolfe had uncovered politically sensitive documents or relics certain institutions wanted kept hidden. But the facts, as laid out over nearly 2 months of testimony, were damning. Prosecutors emphasized the systematic nature of the crimes, the intentional obfuscation, the laundering, the manipulation of public perception. This wasn't an isolated lapse in judgment. It was a multi-year, international operation that exploited nostalgia and trust under the cover of televised Americana. As sentencing concluded, Judge Eliza Romero addressed the courtroom with a quiet finality. "Mr. Wolfe," she said, "you turned the preservation of history into its exploitation. You traded integrity for influence, and memory for money. The court cannot restore what has been lost, but it can hold you accountable."